So I've collected the hands from Daniel. We've got about 15 to go through. Some of them are going to be short, just basic pre-flop adjustments that we want to be making. We'll just come to them as we go. And others will be a little bit more in detail, so I hope you guys enjoy. So for the first hand here, and I don't have reads on any of these opponents. I do have the stakes, and Daniel actually used an online database where he was able to upload the statistics for the players, so I have the statistics of his opponents as well. So this first hand at the table, we are playing 5 cent, 10 cent on PokerStars, I believe. And the relevant reads we have are that the under the gun player who we're going to be playing this pot against, AMT or ATM LYKE, is playing 46 VPIP and 2% preflop raise over 96 hands with a 1.0 aggression factor. Now, even if you're still getting into statistics, you should realize that someone with a 2% preflop raise percent over 96 is playing incredibly tight for their raising range. Now, because he's such a fish, because he plays 46% of his hands, that 2% may not necessarily be the top 2% of hands, but the fact that this player is choosing to raise should be a very big indicator about the strength of his hand. Anyways, let's go ahead and start the action. So this player opens to 90 cents under the gun in a 5-handed game. Now obviously someone raising 9 times the big blind is not a standard, but it is something you do want to make note of, and I think it's much more important than the fact that this guy's only raised 2% of his hands, or one hand every 50 hands, that a very big raise here actually does bother me somewhat. Cutoff folds, and we jam all in for 133 big blinds. This is kind of the first thing that I think a lot of players, maybe if you're a tournament player or you're just getting into cash games, you see it online, you see on TV people playing, they get dealt ace king, they go all in tournaments, and what we want to stress, especially when playing cash games, is just because you have ace king does not give you the right to go all in pre-flop. There are many occasions where getting all in with ace king pre-flop is going to be the right decision. However, this simply is not one of them. What you're allowing ATM-like to do here is play perfect poker. You made such an overbet, such an overcommitting raise, that if he has anything worse than ace king, he's going to fold, and if he has a better hand than yours, he's going to call. Now, if for some reason you had a read that he was just an absolute maniac and would call this with ace queen, ace jack, king queen, okay, you can make an argument for making a massive overshove. But the fact of the matter is, a bet like this is really just going to force him to fold all the hands that are worse than ours and call with the hands that are better. This is something I do see players do somewhat frequently at the micro stakes, and it's just a solid adjustment you want to be making. If you're a good player, your edge comes from playing post-flop, and while ace-king is not a terrible hand to get all in with pre-flop, this is not the way you want to be doing it. He's raised under the gun, he raised to 9 times the blind. In all honesty, we can probably just call, because he's made it 9 times the blind, he has such a tight raising range. But if you were to re-raise to like 250, and then he were to shove, you should probably still fold, because it's just a player who's raising 2% of his hands is not 4-bet shoving a hand worse than ace-king. Anyways, really quick hand. I'll run out the action. Obviously, he calls, he has aces, and he holds. So, sort of a bad beat running ace-king to aces, but when you play your hand like this and you give your opponent no chance to make a mistake, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure. Okay, moving on to the next hand.